After another full day at sea, we've arrived at our final destination on this first part of the cruise. Where in the world are we?
We are in beautiful and sunny Lisbon, Portugal. You can see it behind us.
And today we're going to do an excursion from the ship. We're going to go see some historical sites that we'll show you here shortly and tell you more about. Lasts about 4 hours long, but we have quite a bit of time in the city here before we leave for our next destination. So not sure exactly yet, but after we get done with the official tour, we'll probably try to explore a little bit more of the city.
So we're in Lisbon. We're on a little tour of the city that includes the Monumental, which is this area of the city, and right behind us is the kind of unofficial gate to Lisbon. This is called the Bellum Tower. Bellum in Portuguese actually means Bethlehem. So this is the place that all of the ships from the Age of Exploration actually launched from. They call it Bellum or Bethlehem because they considered it to be God's will for them to take on these explorations and to bring in other territories and other riches and goods for the country of Portugal.
It was originally built in the early 1500s. I believe it was finished in 1519 or so. And it was built as a defense. We're at the mouth of the river that flows out of Portugal and into the Atlantic Ocean. So the king at the time decided to build a fortress here. There are a number of other ones around the city to protect it, and it was never actually attacked. So I guess it did its job.
Yeah, part of the reason it was never attacked is because it's actually built in the shape of a galleon, which was a Portuguese warship at the time. So if people came to the mouth and they saw the outline of this giant Portuguese warship in their little, pirate boats or whatever the boat was of the time, they decided it wasn't worth the fight and they turned around and left and went someplace else.
We're still here next to the tower, but we figured we'd give you a view behind us. Hopefully you can see it. There's a bridge that was actually built by the same company that made the Golden Gate Bridge. So that's why it's very similar. Built quite a few years ago to cross most of the city, or actually the entire city is on one side of the river, but there's another smaller, cheaper city. So a lot of people need to commute every day. So there's a bridge that was built a number of years ago. There's also a smaller version of the Christ the Redeemer statue that you might be familiar with in Rio. And this was a replica that was built in 1959, and they actually call this one Christ the King. But it's actually much smaller, but it looks exactly the same as the one that's in Rio.
Fun facts about the bridge. So originally it was built during a dictatorship, which lasted about 40 years. Salazar was the dictator prior to World War II, after World War I, prior to World War II, all the way up until the 1970s. And so this bridge was actually called the Salazar Bridge at the time. But on the 25th of April, whatever year that was, that I can't remember right now, sometime in the 70s, there was a fairly peaceful military revolution that overthrew the dictator and brought Portugal back to a bit of a democracy. And so the bridge is now called the 25th of April Bridge. So here we are at the Monument of the Discoveries, right behind us. Kind of looks like a little bit of a ship with a sail in it, made of limestone. There's an observation tower that you can take the elevator all the way to the top, and it's kind of a lookout point for all of Lisbon. Surrounding this ship's sail are 31 famous Portuguese explorers, including some names you might recognize: Vasco da Gama, Ferdinand Magellan. At the point of the ship is Prince Henry the Navigator, and of course he was the person who really kicked off the Age of Exploration by opening the first navigational schools, and Portugal, of course, was one of the first countries to go out and explore and find routes to places they already knew, but also to find existing new territories to bring into what was then the Kingdom of Portugal as well.
The monument itself is relatively new. It was constructed during the 50s and completed in, I believe, 1960. Made out of limestone. It was commissioned by the dictator at the time, and I believe it was to celebrate something.
It was to commemorate, actually, the 500th anniversary of the death of Prince Henry the Navigator.
Our next stop is literally just across the street from the Monument of Discoveries, but it took us 30 minutes to get here.
It did.
There is a set of train tracks that are between the other side of the road and this one. There is a walking bridge, so if you're just walking by yourself or on some kind of walking tour, you could just take the bridge over, but nothing for cars or buses. We were on a bus tour, so we had to go, like I said, about 30 minutes, probably about 10 miles out of the way.
Way to go to the suburbs, yeah.
Just to get back over here. But anyway, now we're in front of the Geronimos Monastery.
Yeah, so that's this really cool building right behind us. Named not for Geronimo, but actually for Saint Jerome of Croatia, who was the first monk in the year 500 to translate the Bible into Latin. That was kind of a big deal around here because 85% of Portugal's population is Roman Catholic, and up until that point, even the educated people wouldn't have been able to read the Bible as it was printed in Hebrew, so he translated it into Latin, and then they built this monastery in his honor.
Yeah, the monastery was built around the same time as the Tower of Bellum, which is also just across the street and up a little bit in the early 1500s. It's actually quite large. We're not going to be going inside of it today. There are some gardens out in front, some fountains and whatnot. You can see it's quite a large building. I believe there are tours and whatnot that you can take inside. Not sure how much they cost, but we're only here for about 20 minutes, so we're going to move along.
Just a quick little blurb about the architecture of this. It's called Manueline architecture, and it's the same as the Tower of Bellum was in that architecture as well, so named after King Manuel. It kind of resembles Gothic architecture a little bit with kind of the high spires and the long windows and those kind of things, but the cool thing about Manueline architecture is that there are everyday objects built into the architecture, so you might see the ropes of a ship, or you might see an exotic animal, or those kind of things. Where in Gothic architecture you see things more that point directly to the heaven, you see the gargoyles that protect, the structure and those kind of things. This is kind of a way to incorporate the explorative aspect or culture of the city into the buildings that were built during that time.
And now we're going to head over to someplace nearby that has a snack that originated here that you might be familiar with. All right, so just to the right side of the monastery as you're looking at it and across the street is a place that sells traditional Portuguese egg pastries. We bought 2 of them. They come with 2 different packets of cinnamon and sugar. Cinnamon is in the brown packet, sugar's in the blue packet. We were told the story behind it is the monks in the monastery used to use the egg whites from eggs in order to starch their uniforms, their outfits, and the yolks were left over. So a lot of yolks were just going to waste. So I'm not sure if it was the monks themselves or if it was a local family figured out a way to start using all of these egg yolks, similar to, what was that guy's name with the peanuts? George Washington Carver?
Yes.
Found a good way to use something. So decided to make these egg pastries. And this same family has been selling them at this business that we were just at since, I think, 1837 or somewhere around there.
Something like that, yeah.
So we're about to try one. We both decided we like the cinnamon better, so we'll let Felicia put a little bit of a cinnamon on it.
Let's see what happens here, guys. All right. Oh, that's cinnamon. Yep.
We are not doing the cinnamon challenge.
No. We're just going to sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on each one, I think. Let's see, a little bit on that one, a little bit on that one. It's also
a little bit on your
over
clothes.
me, but it's all good. Yeah. Okay.
You're each going to try it, and we'll let you know how they are. Here, toast.
Cheers. You guys, that is
Excellent.
so good.
And by the way, they were €1.30 each.
The pastry is like super crispy, like layered, flaky pastry, kind of like phyllo sort of dough. And the inside is like just egg yolk rich pudding, vanilla flavored pudding kind of that's inside. And then you can see it's kind of like not crystallized, but like torched on top, sort of maybe under a broiler or under a torch or something along those lines to sort of do that too. But outstanding, 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Yes.
Yeah, and a nice break from all that history stuff she was talking about.
I know, I hate when that happens.
obrigado.
Okay. It's good. That's good. Thank you. Okay guys, so check this out. We just bought cherry brandy in a chocolate cup out of some woman's door in her literal house. Like she just has the door open, and this is like a thing that they do here. They're also sold in a lot of public places, but like I just thought this was really cool because there she was, like this little lady selling this brandy just out of the open door of her house on the street. So we're gonna try it. Let's say
cheers.
Cheers. He doesn't understand brandy is to sip, but oh my god, that's delicious.
I'm just trying to get it done before the chocolate melts.
And like traditionally, like the ones that are manufactured, are about 19% alcohol, but all these little ones that you see in little stands and little doorways and stuff, like there's no real anything regulating how much alcohol it is. So who knows how much it is? Really good though.
Very good. Alright, so we finished up the last part of our excursion, which was a walking tour of the Old Town area here in Lisbon. If you're trying to get there, it's literally directly across the street from the port. It's actually quite a large area. We just went through a small part of it on the walking tour, and now we're just walking around a little bit on our own to check things out. Good timing. Right by us right there was one of the old cable cars. They have quite an extensive public transportation system here in Lisbon. They have a subway system that they're working on extending right now. They have buses, they have trains, they have trolleys like just past us. Behind us right now is the Lisbon Cathedral.
Yeah. So we had thought we were going in the Lisbon Cathedral. It was actually written on our shore excursion as part of what we were going to do, and we ended up not doing that with the cathedral, which is why we're kind of dressed a little bit warmer for the 89-degree day that it is. You do need your knees and shoulders covered in that cathedral, as is the case in many cathedrals and temples around the world. So it's always good to have just something light that you can throw on over your shoulders, or you need to wear pants as opposed to shorts. But if you look into it ahead of time, they'll definitely tell you what that is. But in any case, we didn't end up doing that as part of our tour, so we just kind of walked over here to figure out what was up with it. It is €5 to get in. That's not a lot, but it's more than we want to pay to just walk around a church and maybe or maybe not take any footage. We don't even know if photography is allowed or anything along those lines. So we're happy to stand here outside. So the cathedral was built in...
It was in the 1100s. I don't remember the exact year, which sounds pretty old, but actually the city of Portugal was founded in the 5th century BC, so about over 1,500 years after the founding of the city, and almost 900 years ago it was built.
Hey guys, so we stopped here for lunch at a restaurant called Tapas and Friends, and it's just exactly what it sounds like. Oh, hang on. There are 55 items on the food menu, and so you get a small tasting of each thing. We're starting with a bread basket and some chorizo and broad beans. We also ordered a cheese plate, so that's probably on its way. We also ordered this amazing green drink. So they have a thing here in Portugal called green wine. It's not actually green, it's white wine that's made from really young grapes, and then this has some rum and lime and some other things in it, but again, 10 out of 10 would recommend. So we're going to see how this is. We also got some live entertainment here while we were at it. This guy's super
And the stars in the skies.
So let's see, I'm going to try a little bit of the bread with a little bit of the beans and chorizo, and I'll let you know in just a second how it is. Okay, here we go. So right behind us, you can see St. Anthony's Church. St. Anthony is thought to be, sort of known to be an Italian saint, but actually he was born here in Lisbon, so this is his church. Lots of us know him as the patron saint of lost items, right? So we pray to St. Anthony, or we contribute something to a fountain like the one behind us, and then St. Anthony brings us our lost things. But a little bit lesser known, he is also the saint of matchmaking. So June 13th, which is the anniversary of his death, which actually was 2 days ago from when we're filming this right now, in this church behind us is a mass wedding paid for by the city. And so if you have found your match, especially at St. Anthony's Church by coming to mass here, then you are eligible to be in this wedding, and the city pays for the whole thing, all the food, all the festivities, everything that goes with it. Hundreds of people are married on June 13th in one giant wedding here, and then the entire month of June they have festivals going on. There are lots of places around that have decorations that speak to this festival as well, so we'll try to capture some of that on footage as well. But for now, just know this is the church. So we talked earlier a little bit about the decorations that were up for the Feast of St. Anthony, and then following the Festival of St. Anthony comes the Festival of St. Michael. Following that comes the Festival of St. John, and that's how we get one entire month of June dedicated to festivals and saints.
All right, we've been walking around for a little while since we finished lunch at the tapas place. We just wanted to mention that our bill came to 44 euros. We left a €6 tip, so gave a total of 50. Did a little bit of research on tipping here. It's not necessarily a tipping culture, but if you're gonna go to a nicer sit-down restaurant, sometimes it's appreciated if you tip 5 to 10%. Not nearly as much as you might tip in the U.S., but definitely something. We really enjoyed the food there. It was I finished most of the sangria except for the little bit that Felicia spilled on my lap as she got up to go to the bathroom.
I did, yeah. That was the thing.
Afterwards, we decided to walk up the hills about a third of a mile to the Castle of St. George. I didn't really do the research ahead of time. I assumed that at the very least you could walk around the grounds or see the outside of it, but you approach from the bottom of the hill, and you can go through this one main gate and see the castle walls, but then it's 15 euros to get in. I'm sure well worth the money, but we just didn't really want to spend the time or the money today, so we just had an ice cream, walk back down the hill a little bit, and now we're in a new location if you want to tell us where we're at.
So we're in Commerce Plaza in the middle of Lisbon, but I really do think Jeff should flip the camera around for 1 second because there is a giant panda bear walking through the plaza right now. That's just not something you see every day, so I felt like it was going to be a missed opportunity if we didn't show it to you. So Commerce Plaza is where we're at. Everything that you see in yellow is a government office building sort of thing. So like Department of Taxation, Department of Commerce, all that kind of stuff is here. A little bit of customs, although some of the customs is in other places where when you're coming into the country, as far as those kind of customs and passport control and that kind of thing is concerned. But this plaza is huge. I don't know if it really does it justice to see it on film, but it's really just amazingly gigantic. One thing I do want to point out, most everything that you see here in white is built with limestone, and in this area of the world, limestone is really, really prevalent. So it's built, everything is built from it, including the sidewalks and the streets. Just a quick little warning, limestone is extremely slippery when it's worn down, even slipperier when it's wet. Last summer in Croatia, I absolutely bit it on the limestone along the seafront. The most embarrassing part to that was that, the 80-plus-year-old ladies who were on the tour with us were the ones offering to help me up. I was on the ground and they weren't, so I guess it made sense. Here, lots of limestone again. Instead of kind of flat limestone or smooth limestone, they're little squares that are kind of parquetted into the sidewalks, but they are every single bit as slippery. Probably about 4 times I have almost lost it already today. So just something to be aware of when you're traveling in this part of the world. Just the ground is a lot of limestone and it's extremely slippery. It really doesn't even matter what kind of shoes you have on, good grip or otherwise, the limestone is going to be slippery, so just be careful with it.
Yeah, and I think quite a bit of the city is hilly. Down by the waterfront here, it's relatively flat, but anywhere beyond that, it's relatively hilly. Tour guide told us earlier that the city was built on 7 hills, similar to, I guess, Rome was built on 7 hills. So was San Francisco and some other
places
prominent
as well,
cities. So definitely wear some good shoes, ankle support, good rubber soles, especially if it's raining. It's not at all today,
Right,
but
yeah.
still quite slippery.
But it's still slippery even when it's not raining. So.
Well, we're back on the ship, so that wraps up our day in Lisbon. We're off to another port here in a couple days that we'll be posting a new video about. Any final thoughts on the city?
No, I mean, it's a really beautiful city. Definitely would like to come back here again. Didn't see anywhere near, what there is to see in this city. Obviously, we got a little taste of a lot of different things throughout the day, but definitely would love to come back and spend a little bit of time really getting to know the city.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.